Have you ever sat down to meditate? You're all set to find that moment of peace, and then your brain decides to throw a full-blown party? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're diving into a guide for anyone whose mind just refuses to quit, and we're going to see how to turn that busy brain from your biggest problem into your greatest asset.
Meditation teacher John Feng noticed that beginners tend to fall into two main camps. On one side, you have those who don't think enough. They find it easy to concentrate, but, well, when a real problem comes up, they're kind of lost. And then there's the second group, those who think too much. If that sounds even a little bit familiar, you know the frustration. Your mind just will not settle down.
For the overthinker, meditation can seriously feel like a battle. You sit down, you try to watch your breath, and bam, suddenly you're planning dinner, you're replaying some conversation from 3 days ago, and you're worrying about a deadline that's a week away. Talk about exhausting. But here's a thought. What if all that thinking isn't a bug? What if it's actually a feature we can learn to use? And this, right here, is where we flip the whole script. The goal is not to force your mind into some kind of unnatural silence. It's about taking that natural tendency to think and investigate and learning how to aim it, skillfully, at your meditation practice itself. Okay, so how in the world do we actually do that? Well, first things first, we need a better picture of what we're even dealing with. What does a busy mind actually feel like on the inside? There's a brilliant analogy for this. The great teacher Ajaran Mahabua had this amazing way of describing it. He said the overthinker's mind is like a tree that's completely tangled up with all the other trees in a dense forest. You can't just go in and chop it down. It'll just get stuck. You have to be strategic. You have to figure out which branches, which thoughts are connected to which, and where you need to make that very first cut. So, picture it. You're sitting there trying to meditate, and the first branch you notice is that nagging worry about tomorrow's meeting. It's hooked into your sense of responsibility, maybe a little bit of fear of failure. Yeah, it's a big one. And what do you know? Tangled right up with that branch is a memory of something kind of awkward you said last week. See how they connect? The embarrassment from the past is actually fueling the anxiety about the future. It's not just one thought, it's a whole web. And then there's this other branch. It's a low-hanging, incredibly tempting one. That sudden, powerful urge to just grab your phone. Now, it feels like an escape from the other two tangled thoughts, right? But really, it's just another entanglement, pulling you even further away from what's happening right now. Okay, so we've got this image of a tangled mind. And our first instinct is to fight it, right? To try and brute force our way to silence. But that just gets you more stuck in the vines. The new approach isn't about fighting. It's about figuring. It's about becoming a clever strategist instead of just a frustrated lumberjack. And here are the 3 key strategic moves. First, instead of getting mad at your thoughts, get curious. What's actually going on in there? Second, and this is a good one, learn to treat your thoughts a little roughly. You don't owe them your attention. You don't have to finish every single story your mind starts telling you. Just cut it off and come back to the breath. And third, stop seeing your distraction as this one giant, unbeatable monster. See it as a series of individual arguments and start taking them apart one by one. When you start getting curious, you notice something pretty amazing. Your mind isn't a single voice, it's more like a chaotic committee meeting. There are all these different voices in there with totally different agendas. One wants a cookie, another wants you to feel miserable about the past. Your job isn't to shout them all down. It's to just listen in and then ask, why on earth would I believe that voice? As you practice this, you start to see something really profound. The specific worry about the meeting or that cringy memory, that isn't the real issue. What's way more important is the process your mind uses to create these experiences in the first place. And this is where things get really fascinating. This leads us straight to one of the biggest questions in meditation. When we feel stressed or anxious or just plain unhappy, is it because of our job or our relationships or what's going on in the world? Or is there something else at play? Well, it turns out the real problem isn't the raw material of our lives. It's the mind's internal machinery, the process itself. Think of it like this. If your machine is built to make processed cheese, it literally does not matter if you put in the finest, most amazing artisanal Gouda from France. You're still just going to get processed cheese. The suffering comes from the processing, not the input. So what are the gears of this mental cheese machine? They're the basic building blocks of our moment-to-moment experience. Things like the way we frame our perceptions, the feelings that pop up, and maybe most importantly, those tiny little acts of attention and intention that we make every single second. These are the levers that decide whether an experience becomes suffering or peace.
So, what about all that other chatter that's happening on the edges of your awareness? The temptation is to go over there and try to fix it. But as the teacher John Lee puts it, that's like trying to scrub a shadow. You can't clean a shadow. The trick is to just not pay it any mind. If you stop feeding those background thoughts with your attention, they eventually just run out of energy and fade away on their own.
So, at the end of the day, in every single moment, your mind is processing your world and it is leading the way. It's creating your reality. The question this whole practice leaves us with isn't how to stop it, but how to get good at peering into that process and learning to direct it. Your mind is already the guide. The only question is, are you ready to take the reins?